The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes, on demand on YouTube. Now, thanks to our good friend, cable systems that serve 12 million additional households. I'm your host, Gary Baumgarten. Well, you know, quite often we talk about serious things. Talking about, as I suggested to you a moment ago, rapes of women in the Congo. We talked just yesterday about has Iran really given up their nuclear weapons aspirations, or are they really a problem for the entire world? We talk about the border issues and homeland security and famine and malaria and all this kind of stuff. And we're getting close to the holidays, and it's time to give people a little bit of a break. And when Juliet Powell pitched this to me and said, you got to talk to my good friend Marta Tracy. Not only is she interesting and vivacious and beautiful, but actually her book is a good read and interesting to the public. And I actually read a good portion of the book. Usually I read through the books. I just been busy trying to paint my house, and it's a total disaster. If any of you want to volunteer to come out here and finish a job, it's going to be worse to taking it from scratch. I guarantee you that, because from scratch it would be okay. Now that Gary's gotten his hands into it, it's a mess. I'll talk to you after the show. But Marta Tracy is the co-author of this great book called Starring You, which talks about how you can become your own little star on television. And it's actually true that people who were never heard of before suddenly shot to the top to become household names. Let me tell you a little bit about Marta. She is a television executive. She created and launched the Style Network. She was the senior vice president there. This book that she co-wrote with Terrence Noonan, who was a producer at News Talk Television.
How about that?
Which I was on.
Well, we're all connected to each other.
I was on News Talk Television once a week when Lisa Sliwa, then known as Lisa Marie, Lisa, now known as Lisa Evers, was hosting, and once a week I was on her show, talking about stuff. I was a regular guest.
We'll talk about that because
I wormed my way into there. All of a sudden, I was on television once a week.
Right.
Anyway, according to you, I have said in this little. Oh, by the way, the book has tips from people who you've heard of: Diane Sawyer, Nancy Grace, 60 more of the most recognizable names on the small screen. Here's the issue, guys. Today, unlike back in the old days when there were only 3 television networks, there are a gazillion networks. Anybody who's got cable or satellite TV, boop, 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 boop. There are a million networks out there, and producers are looking for people to fill time. And it's a lot easier, you say, Marta Tracy, to get on television than one might think. You could just pick up the phone or drop an email or drop something in the snail mail, and suddenly you find yourself on a major show like the Today Show.
Can happen, could happen.
How does it happen?
Well, actually, there's probably 1,000,001 ways to get on television, and the book basically talks about my belief of what I found from being in the industry about 30 years. And the most important thing is to want to be on TV and then to figure out how to get into the game, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Why would a person want to go on TV? In fact, the most interesting anecdotes that I read about were people who didn't even know they wanted to be on TV, and somehow a producer recognized that this would be kind of offbeat or interesting. The one that comes to mind offhand is a gal who was trying, like the Dickens, to get on the Rosie O'Donnell show.
Yes.
Couldn't get on the show. Kept writing for tickets, couldn't get tickets. Writing for tickets, couldn't get tickets. And she finally decided that she would try to catch Rosie's attention, not to get on the show as a guest, but to get tickets, just to sit in the audience. And she baked a little set. It looked like her set, right?
Set replica.
A replica of a set.
baking and candy.
And she made a picture of it and sent it to the
Yes.
producers and said, look, this is how much I love Rosie and her show. Please send me tickets to the show. And they said, oh my God, we got to get this woman on. And she became not only a regular on that show, but she's been all over the map, and she's huge now.
Right, and her business significantly increased. So the answer to your first question is like, why be on television?
Right.
It is certainly a way, if you're a talent, if you're a personality, if you're a small business, it certainly helps to, build your brand out of all the mediums. It still is the strongest and the largest if you follow the advertising dollars. But her business increased trifold, and now in fact she's writing her own book, and she is a regular guest, and she gets invited on all these different shows, and then people are ordering her cakes. So her business has significantly multiplied.
You may not have a product that you're trying to sell. You might have an idea, or you might be an expert. You talk about a dentist who is engaging and went on television. Now he's on all the time, and his business is, he's turning patients away at the door. On Paltalk, we have a show called Ask Dr. Siegel with Dr. Mark Siegel, who's at NYU Medical Center. Dr. Mark Siegel makes himself available to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. He writes a column for the LA Times. Mm-hmm. And when I was at CNN, I interviewed him often because I knew he was accessible and accurate and an excellent interview. And he was there on time when I needed him, which is a big thing. One thing you don't want to do is book somebody who's not going to show up especially if it's a live show or even if it's a taping. You got a crew sitting around waiting for the person to show up. He's great. And when I came over to Paltalk from CNN, I brought him over with me,
right.
And I had him on as a guest like you, and he said, this is great, I'd love to have a show on Paltalk, and now he has a show on Paltalk.
There you go.
And now he's going to be on Sirius Satellite Radio.
There you go. That's the story of a launch of a brand. You start out in one medium, and little by little you cross over to other mediums and develop what we call a multiple media platform, which is the ideal situation. But you have to start someplace. And certainly you can start with a book. In terms of building a brand, I really believe like the book is a foundation because from the book you can do a blog, you can do a website, and then we talk about producers are always looking for guests. And your producers know as well. You have time you have to fill, and there are producers all over the world who currently are trying to figure out who's the next guest going to be for tonight, for tomorrow, for next week, for the next month. And there's a competition always going on about finding the next new guest. So there is room there. So it's the first step. I think you have to figure out if you're a talent or a personality, or if you're a business, or if you have a brand or product to sell. The very first step is to ask yourself, what's the benefit? What would if someone takes the time to give you a 5 or 6 minute segment on television, what benefit will the viewers at home, what will they gain, what will they learn? If you don't have a benefit, you probably, television medium is not right for you. There really has to be something that the benefit that the audience will get. That's step number one. Then of course you can go to step number two, and that would be how to position yourself. So for example, when I go on television, I position myself as a television strategist because I come up with strategies to help people get on television. But other monikers are celebrity makeup experts, landscaping experts. What will you call yourself becomes the next thing.
You are who you say you are.